Today they're going to ask us the same questions they did for standard. Yesterday when you did the practice, they asked you for axis of symmetry. They asked you for vertex, maximum, minimum, y-intercept, those things they asked you, right? They're going to ask you the same things. The difference is it's in a different form. It's not going to have, well, it'll have an A, but it's not going to have a B and a C, right? They got different things going on. Different forms use different rules, right? Different forms use different rules. So we got to figure out how to use those rules, okay? The first one is vertex form. Vertex form is probably the easiest one because everything is given to you. You just have to find it. You don't have to do any calculations. You don't have to do any, it's all there. So vertex form, all three forms, I should say, have an A, right? Have A. Vertex form also has an H and it has a K. All right? Be careful though, H is a liar. H does not tell the truth, okay? Why does it not tell the truth? Don't worry about that right now. We'll talk about that next chapter, but for right now, just take my advice. So if it says -4, it's actually +4. If it says +6, it's actually -6, okay? Okay, so vertex form. How do I find the vertex for vertex form? Whatever H is, whatever K is, you're done. That's it. What is the axis of symmetry? It's always going to be H. So whatever H is, that's the axis of symmetry. Done. What's the maximum and minimum? Well, you got to know if it's a maximum or minimum. So how do we know if something is going to have a maximum or minimum? How do we know? If it's up or down, right? Arrows up means max, it's going to have a minimum. Arrows down, it's going to have a maximum. So if I'm looking at something, how do I know if it's going to have a maximum or minimum? What's going to tell? Which? A. A is going to tell you, right? If A is positive, arrows up. If A is negative, arrows down. That's all of the forms. Okay, good. The other one is what we call sometimes, most of the time it's called factored form, sometimes it's called intercept form. It's the same thing. It's got an A, arrows up, arrows down. But it's also got P and Q. It's got a P and a Q, so it doesn't have any other letters. It has P and Q, okay? Those are liars. P and Q are liars, just like H was, okay? So they give us something that we haven't seen before, x-intercepts, okay? So whatever P is, whatever Q is, those are x-intercepts. How do you find the axis of symmetry? I wrote this down wrong. I forgot to change it. So this is how I scratched that out. The axis of symmetry is halfway in between. So if something's halfway in between, the way to find it is to add them together, add up P and Q, and divide by 2. If something's halfway in between, you add up one, you add up the other, divide by 2. Okay, and then maximum, minimum, same as always. Okay. So we talked about A, right? A determines whether it's arrows up or arrows down. Arrows up, arrows down, right? If A is bigger than 0 or if A is less than 0, positive or negative. If A is positive, arrows up. If A is negative, arrows down. We talked about that for a few days. That's not new. A also does something else. It determines whether the U, the parabola, is wide or skinny. Today we're going to see some that are really skinny, and we're going to see some that are really wide. What makes that true? A. If A is farther away from 0, it's going to be skinny. If A is close to 0, it's going to be wide. Okay? What's that? A. A does 2 jobs. Arrows up or arrows down, and then determine whether it's wide or skinny. So it just depends on which way you're going. Are you going away from 0 or towards 0? Okay. Was that? Yes. Kind of the opposite of what you think, right? You think that as I go farther away, it should get wide, right? Yeah, it's kind of opposite. It's weird. Okay. All right, so let's do one. Let's do one problem. Let's do a problem number 1. So the hardest thing, I think, is to determine which form it's in. Because I got 3 forms. And if I pick the wrong form, everything else is going to be wrong. So let's talk about how do I know which form this is in. So let's talk about the differences. What's unique? Unique means only that one, right? Parentheses, right? Parentheses. Standard form doesn't have any parentheses. Vertex form has 1 set of parentheses. Factored form has 2 parentheses. That's the easiest way to tell. So if I'm looking at this guy right here, which one is it going to be? Vertex, right? Because it's got 1 set of parentheses. 1 set of parentheses, vertex form. That's the easiest way to tell the difference between the 3 versions. So we're going to put vertex form, and we're going to follow those instructions. We're going to follow those instructions. Okay, so it's got an A, an H, and a K. A, H, K. So what is A going to be for this guy? -3, good. So from that guy, is it going to be arrows up or arrows down when we're done? Down, yeah. Okay. H. Remember, H is a liar. So it looks like -2, right? But it's actually +2, yeah. K tells the truth, -4. Okay. So now we're going to use those 3 things to figure out all of this stuff that we did the other day. Axis of symmetry. So let's go to our directions. Let's go to our rules. It says axis of symmetry is x equals h. So what was h? So that's our axis of symmetry, too. That's the mirror line, right? That's the green mirror line that divides, that it's symmetrical. So let's go draw that. +2 is over here. Okay, always vertical. This one goes through 2. Vertex. We know it's going to be on the green line, but exactly where? So let's go to our directions. The vertex is always H, comma K. H is 2, K is -4. So that's our vertex. 2, -4. Let's go make a dot. Okay. 3, maximum or minimum. So we have 2 options. Is this going to have a maximum or is it going to have a minimum and where at? So we said it's going to be arrows down, right? We said that because A is negative. So if it's arrows down, it's going to have a max. Okay, so we're going to circle max. And then for this form, whatever K is going to be that number. So that was -4. Okay. last thing before we graph, the y-intercept. So the y-intercept always starts with a 0. Yep, always starts with a 0. Doesn't matter which form, it always starts with a 0. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to plug 0 back into the original where I see an x, because that's taking its spot. Well, there's only an x there, so I'm going to plug in a 0. So I'm going to rewrite everything the same, just 0 instead of x. So y equals -3, 0 minus 2 squared minus 4. Same thing, just no x, 0 in its place. Okay. Now PEMDAS, parentheses. Well, 0 minus 2 is -2. Then we do exponents. -2 squared is +4. Multiply, subtract. So when we multiply, I get -12 minus 4 equals -16. So -16. So now we got a graph. Graphing's the easiest part because I already have everything. But what's going to be the problem with the y-intercept? It's off the graph, right? So I'm going to have to use my imagination. Yeah. It's not too far off, but it is far, right? 0, -1, -2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15. Like 16 is like right around there. Best estimate, like right around there. So it's a mirror. It's a reflection line. The green line is a reflection, a mirror. So anything that's on one side has to be in the same spot as the other. So if I have one there, I'm going to have one in the same spot on the other side. Because otherwise it wouldn't be a reflection line. Draw your picture. So it's going to be it's not a V, it's a U. What do you notice about this? It's arrows down, we said that already, but what else do you notice about this guy? Is it skinny or wide? Skinny. Why was it skinny? Let's go look at back over here. Which way? A was -3, right? I had to go this way a little bit. Stretch, it's stretched out. Right? Got a little skinny. Okay. All right. Okay, number 2 now. Let's do number 2. Is this guy in vertex form too? How do we know? One set of parentheses. Good. So vertex form. Okay, so we're going to follow the same directions we did the last time. A, H, okay. So what's A? 1/4, right? Is that a positive number or a negative number? Positive. It's positive. It's close to 0, but it's positive, so it's still going to be arrows up. Still going to be arrows up because it's positive. H is a liar, so instead of +5, it's actually -5. K tells the truth, so +2. Okay. go follow the instructions. A, axis of symmetry. Since we said it was vertex form, we're going to follow these instructions. So that means H. H is -5, so that's our axis of symmetry, -5. So let me get my green line. One, two, three, four, five. Okay, that's our mirror. Vertex, H, comma, K. So -5, comma, 2. Okay. Next thing, maximum or minimum. Well, A is positive, so it's going to have a minimum. Okay, so we're circle minimum, and it says the minimum is going to be at K. Well, we said K was 2, so that's 2. Last thing, y-intercept. Plug in 0 to the original everywhere there's an x. 1/4 parentheses 0 plus 5 squared plus 2. Parentheses, 0 plus 5 is 5. Exponents, 5 squared, 25. Well, now I have to multiply times a fraction. Well, that's what your calculators are for. So I'm going to go to my calculator, and I'm going to plug that in to see what answer I get. Let's see here. So I already did it last period. 8.25. 8.25. So 8 1/4. That's my y-intercept. Zero, comma, 8.25. Okay, so here's my problem. How do I graph 0, 8.25? How do I graph that? I got to make a dot. But where do I make my dot if it's 8.25? I know where 8 is. 0, 8 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right there. Where's 8.25? A little bit more, yep. A little bit more. Yes. Yeah, pencils, yeah, go for it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, a little bit more. Last thing before I draw the graph is got to reflect it. That orange dot is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away. So I got to go 5 away on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to make a dot, exact same spot on the other side. Connect the dots, you're done. Now it's not going to be a V. going to be a U, but the U is going to be a little bit wider. Wider than it usually is, I should say. Okay. Done. All right, so we're going to do, I'm going to do number 3 with you guys, and then number 4 you guys are going to do on your own, and we'll be done. Okay, so number 3. Which form is this in? Well, this one's going to be in factored form. 2 parentheses, right? Yeah. Okay, so factored form, so let's write that down. So that means it's got an A, a P, and a Q. Factored form. A, P, Q. Okay. Okay. What's A going to be? -1. P and Q are liars, just like H. So it's going to be +1 and -5. +1 and -5. Okay. And then we're going to follow the directions on how to do each of those guys. So number 1, axis of symmetry, A, O, S. So it's halfway in between P and Q. So halfway means you add them up, divide by 2. Add up P plus Q, divide by 2. 1 plus -5 divided by 2. 1 plus -5 is -4. Divided by 2 is -2. That's where my green line's going to go, -2. Yep. Vertex. I know this guy is going to go here because it says whatever I got for an answer for this guy, P plus Q divided by 2, I'm going to put right there. I just have to figure out what this guy is. How do I do that? You're going to plug it back in anywhere you see an X. So I'm going to plug it back into the original. So I'm going to plug it back in. I'm going to plug in -2 here and here. Okay. So y equals -2 minus 1, -2 plus 5. Because that's where x was at the beginning. Parentheses. -2 minus 1 is -3. -2 plus 5 is +3. Multiply. Well, -3 times 3 is -9, but then I also have this negative in front, which is a -1, so it's going to be +9. Yep. Okay. -2 up 9, make a dot. There we go, right there. Okay, so number 4, I'm going to change for this guy. So if it's in factored form, you don't have to do y-intercepts, just do x-intercepts. I'll show you why, because it's a lot easier. So change number 4 to x-intercepts. Put a little x there. Same thing down here. Change it to x instead of y. You can find y, but it's a lot easier to do x. So let's just do x. Oh, wait, max and min. Max, min. Max, min. So is this guy going to have a maximum or a minimum? Yeah, it's going to have a max because A is negative. It's going to be arrows down. This guy's going to be arrows down. I forgot to say that at the beginning, but yeah, arrows down, so it's going to have a max. That maximum is going to be the number I just found, 9. Okay, so x-intercepts. So x-intercepts are p comma 0, q comma 0. So for this guy, p was 1, so I'm going to go 1, 0. That's right there. Negative 5 comma 0. That's right there. Connect the dots, you're done. Done. Okay. All right, so last thing, I want you to do number 4 on your own. This one's in factored form, I'll tell you right now, it's in factored form, number 4. Okay. So work on those things. I'm going to be walking around if you need some help. We'll do it together, but I want you to try it on your own. So, factored form, A is 3, arrows up, since A is positive. P is negative 5, Q is negative 9. So axes of symmetry, I added up P plus Q, so negative 5 plus negative 9 equals negative 14 divided by 2, you get negative 7. That's where the green line went, negative 7. Okay, so now we got to find the vertex. So I'm going to take my axis of symmetry, and I'm going to plug it back into the original wherever there's an x. So it's going to look like this. 3, negative 7 plus 5, negative 7 plus 9. Parentheses. So I'm going to do negative 2 and positive 2, because negative 7 plus 5 is negative 2. Negative 7 plus 9 is positive 2. Multiply. So when you multiply, you're going to get negative 12. So the vertex is at negative 7 up 12, or down 12, sorry. It's a little bit off. It's like right there. Maximum, minimum. Well, since it's arrows up, it's going to be a minimum. And that's going to be at negative 12. The last thing is x-intercepts. P, comma 0, negative 5, comma 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right there. Q, comma 0, negative 9, comma 0. Connect the dots. Okay. One other thing they're going to ask you is they're going to say, which form is it easiest to find this or that? So if they're asking you to find the vertex, which of the three forms is it easiest? You can find them in all, but which one is the easiest to find the vertex? Or I'll let you guys find out tomorrow. I was trying to help you guys out, but it seems like taping's more important, so we'll skip it to tomorrow.